Hi, it's Tim Hagan from Progress Coaching, and welcome to another episode of Coaching Conversations. And I wanted to make you aware of something very cool that we're doing on a subscription basis, and we'll put a link in each one of our episodes. But every Wednesday, we're going to be doing what we call an audio podcast workshop. That workshop will be roughly about 14 to maybe 20 minutes per episode, with each month having a theme from a coaching model, using feedback strategically, to coaching self-awareness, and so on. So if you could, look in the body or in the content description of each episode, and you will see a link where you can join this subscription. These are literally 4 workshops every month, teaching specific strategies to address a particular area of workplace coaching, as it relates, again, to things like awareness, motivation, teamwork, and what have you. Here's the cool thing. It's only $10 per month, and each month you will get a handout that we will follow along with. So we also give you a tool for you to take notes as we go through each episode. We hope you'll check it out.
Hi, everybody. It's Tim Hagan, and welcome to another episode of Coaching Conversations podcast. And today we got a special guest, Ben.Murphy from Titus Talent Strategies. And as a lot of you have heard me over the last couple of years, I'm not the most professional guy in the world, so I might as well tell people I know Ben very well. I know their company very well. Yet this is going to be a really cool interview because Ben and his company are doing some of the most innovative things in the marketplace. So I hope this really captures your attention. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Doing well, Tim. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and certainly your unique coaching background and what Titus does.
Absolutely. So Ben.Murphy, Vice President, Titus Talent Strategies. Kind of unique for the business world is for about 10 years prior to getting into the talent strategy space, I coached college athletics, was a defensive coach, and really focused on developing teams on the sports fields. And then post that season of life in my life, I joined Titus about 8 years ago. And Titus is a very unique talent strategy firm, heavy focus in the front end of helping companies understand how to design their seats in their business and helping them recruit people to those seats. And then we have a whole team, what we call our talent optimization team, where we use different tools to really drive greater retention and greater performance with their people on the post hire, because that has to be a key cog in your talent strategy to use your people to the greatest asset in the organization.
Yeah, and I think that it's so cool what your company does. And obviously you and I know each other well, and both our companies have helped each other out a lot. And obviously the pandemic hit both our companies in unique ways. How did you guys rebound so quickly? And what are some of the innovative things you did to really kind of use the pandemic to kind of launch out of it very successfully?
Yeah, we only had a couple of months of kind of downturn in some ways. And then it became very evident that talent was going to be a huge issue for people during the pandemic on the front end of it. And so we kind of had a 2-prong attack. One was we had a massive increase in organizations across the United States that needed help attracting talent at all levels of their workforce. And so we use different strategies with our passive candidate recruiting strategies. That's really, really important. And also geofencing and other targeted marketing campaigns that we use to help them attract talent to those needed openings. So that was one side of what we were doing in the COVID piece. And like, for example, we've hired, I believe, about 90 people in our recruiting function this year alone. That's how many companies really appreciate our passive candidate strategies in this time of need. So that's been very exciting. But on the flip side, there's been this whole great resignation. There's been all these people are leaving these organizations, and this huge need had developed for how do we not only hire people, but how do we retain them? How do we build a culture that's going to create retention, but still maximize performance? And so we have this philosophy. We have what we really focus on is cost of driving a performance culture with a people first culture. Mm-hmm. Doing that and coaching our talent optimization teams, coach organizations on how to drive that type of people strategy using different softwares and coaching conversations with their managers to really equip them to do that.
Yeah. And you guys have also been one of the leading experts in the country with predictive index. Share with our audience a little bit about your predictive index practice, how you use that as a tool, quite frankly, not just to run assessments, but you Titus uses it very strategically.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, hiring is not easy, right? And so how can we use some science and look at some behavioral and cognitive data that's going to give us a greater likelihood of predicting the right person in the right seat? We like to use that. So we partner with our partners to use that in individual searches or in a broad base across their companies to increase that hiring success rate. If you do it right, you can increase it. It's 58% predictive of on-the-job performance, where an unstructured interview is 6% predictive of performance. And so we really, not every manager and hiring person runs a well-structured interview and is trained to be a great interviewer. So it's really nice to add that element and data point into the hiring process. Now, you hired people thinking they had these certain behavioral traits. Those behavioral traits that you hired for should carry over into your coaching conversations post-hire to not only maximize that person's performance in their individual role, but then they need to have the self-awareness of how their behavioral profile is impacting their role, their success, but also then the self-awareness and peer awareness of how it's impacting the team members around them to create the greatest team dynamic and empathetic dynamic needed. And so the predictive index allows us to do that, and our talent optimization people on our team can work with the organizations to really equip their people to do that well.
You almost hit the road running really well. I mean, it must help organizations in terms of their onboarding strategy.
Absolutely. I'm a huge believer that what you hire for is what you should manage off of and use those same things. We call it the head, the heart, and the briefcase. So the predictiveness gives us the head component of it. The heart gives us the cultural component, the values of the organization. You need to hire for values. You need to manage and coach around your company values. And then that briefcase is you hired for these accomplishments on their resume, the skills that they've demonstrated in the past. Well, then onboard and use the head in your onboarding, focus on the values in your onboarding, and focus on that carryover of skill development to help that person be successful in their new role. And then that hiring onboarding plan just continues.
Yeah.
And that person's ramping up and being successful in their organization.
Well, it's interesting too. Do you find with a lot of companies that when you gave the statistic about the 50-some% with predictive index and then 6% with people who do interviews and don't structure them, do you get put into situations where companies feel like they have to have the right person because they've had a lot of past error rates and historical poor hiring decisions?
Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy how you need to hire well, right? You need to plan around what you're hiring for. And again, it should carry over to how you're going to manage that person's plan for success. And 56% of executives fail in a job in the first 18 months. So if you don't have a plan for an executive, you're going to struggle. But how about all your mid-level and entry-level roles?
Filtering down.
And so we're so believe that your hiring plan should be relatively the same plan for post-hire, and it should all run together and make it more efficient.
Interesting. Well, in addition to predictive index, you have launched a new platform, M4P, which I've had the privilege of seeing. Tell our audience a little bit about your plans with the platform, what it does, what does the future not only hold for the platform, but for your clients that are on the platform.
Absolutely. So there's a component to what we're really trying to get accomplished. Again, is we want these people that you're hiring, the people that have been in your business, to be successful in their roles. We're big believers in defining what success looks like in their roles and then helping people with a playbook to be successful. Well, in the system that we designed, that playbook, those same behavioral traits that we hired for, those same skills that were demonstrated on their resume, and those same valued traits that we hired for are a part of that playbook, that when their managers are having the coaching conversations that you emphasize, they have things to focus on in that playbook to drive the greatest likelihood of performance within their positions. We don't like to have organizations where they don't define their roles and people do a bunch of tasks and are drifting around instead of working towards things that really matter, that are going to help them get traction and scale in their business. And so really helping them organize their organizational chart, we call it the accountability chart in the system, to do that. And so it's designed that way. But the thing that we really take pride, right? Is you give them that playbook per role, but then why do 75% of people leave due to their managers? So you have to create opportunities for managers and their employees to have greater communication, sense of connection, and clarity in what they're working on. And only 14.5% of managers know what to talk about and how to give feedback.
Right.
It's what you do all the time, right? You're training managers on how to give feedback. What we're doing is we're carrying over those hiring traits so they know what to give feedback on in their coaching sessions, ultimately with that person. And then those managers, companies that are listening to your podcast need to focus on developing their managers to give that feedback well. But I coached college football for 10 years, right? If we're losing on the scoreboard, right? If we know what our performance goals are and we're losing, any good team is going to call timeout and strategize and how can they win together.
Yeah.
And there should be a shared accountability amongst managers and employees that they're trying to win together in these goals and they have a playbook to do it. And now you have a mission-driven business that has that cascading down throughout the steps in the levels of your business.
And what's so cool is that's a great analogy with the football, because, I've coached volleyball. I mean, you don't just sit there and not call a timeout. And we hear the word audible all the time. And I think the one thing I loved about M4P, so correct me if I'm wrong, is not only you developing a platform, but the platform is constructed to be in alignment with those hiring traits from one company to the next. So it's not a fixed platform. It's really retrofitted and customized to the client's specific needs.
Purposely designed as a framework to match what you're looking for in that process. Now, I interact with organizations that are at different steps in the journey to having a great kind of coaching and performance world. And they can't all get to the ultimate pot of gold at the same rate based on where they're started. Right. So there's things that we designed in that system to increase communication and connection, even if you haven't really defined performance or playbooks yet. We're a big believer that, hey, people, 94% of people want feedback when projects finish, right? Well, we built it in there that in the moment, you can give feedback and notify that person or their manager on, hey, this person did an amazing thing on this project. I want to shout them out. Or, hey, there's a couple things we need to work on, but it can be real time. Yeah. So you're avoiding these recency biases when you get to an annual review or a semi-annual review. So we wanted to give that piece that's very different to the market and allow that to live in the system as well. And then the other part is pulse surveys. They're common, right? There's all sorts of pulse survey tools. Sure. But when you can attach it kind of into your platform where everything else is connected, and maybe you're not having a weekly or monthly check-in with your employees, but you can automate it. Every week, these questions get sent to their cell phone or sent to their email. Hey, do you need to talk about anything? Do we need to call timeout and check in on anything? What's going on here? That can be set up automated to increase communication and connection while making it easier for those people to live that culture while they're trying to get all their things done.
Well, and you think about one thing that you didn't mention that just keeps ringing through my head is the accuracy of feedback. We have the biannual, annual review, but how often do we almost forget to give feedback when you mentioned strength-based, you're doing a great job here. We don't tend to do that. So if we don't have a tool to do that, we kind of let the work run us versus us run the work. And that's one of the things I love about your platform.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think one of the things companies have a culture and they have values. Well, making progress or having a culture of progress has to be one of those. Having that growth mindset and giving feedback is a key element to develop. All these sports teams, every game they watch film and they give feedback on how they're doing and they get better week in and week out.
Right.
In businesses, if you don't create that culture of, positive and constructive feedback, they can stagnate. Or they continue to make mistakes over and over again and don't learn in the moment quick enough. And at the rate at which business and the world runs today, you want to see those things, communicate those things, and make improvements each and every day you can. Yeah. And having that live and track and organized in a one-stop shop is part of doing that effectively.
Well, and if you do that in alignment with the hiring traits, you almost simplify it. And it's not the most intelligent term. You almost dummy proof it for managers because it's in alignment of their expectations versus them having to discover or create expectations.
I 100%. I mean, this is how we do it internally, right? We only do things that we do ourselves with our clients. And it instantly makes me a better manager when I have that sitting right in front of me.
Right.
It's not stuck in some SharePoint or some other thing or never been designed. It's right in front of me. I'm one-to-one with my employee. I can work and talk through those things. And if we determine that there's maybe a couple other things that are more important in that development, let's edit those things and let's get the right plan in place. Because I am as a manager trying to win together with you as we're all trying to win as an organization.
Yeah. So how do people learn about M4P? How do they get in touch with Titus? What's the best way for someone to really learn about this platform? And I would encourage our audience to reach out. I've actually seen the platform. So I've actually seen it in action. I would encourage people, if you're looking for a platform to develop your talent and make better hiring decisions and be in alignment with your hiring traits, check this platform out. But how does someone go about learning about this?
Absolutely. You can go to m4p.app. This is you can use it on your computer, use it on your phone, m4p.app, and you can look at information there, request a demo if you'd like to have a strategy conversation on it, or you could go to our titustalent.com website, and you can access that through that as well. And you can look at some of the pre-hire, recruiting and other things that we do for organizations.
Awesome. Any last words you'd like to share with our audience?
I just think your culture's got to be a key point of your strategy. Yeah. And your culture is made up of the people that you hire, right? So you have to hire people that are aligned with your values. You have to continue to coach around those values, but it all has to be towards performing great as an organization and having really a linear game plan from start to finish with each employee is key to optimizing that. And it can be very confusing. You said it earlier. It's kind of like dummy proofing or simplifying. If you take 5 minutes up front, you'll get a grip on each role and then how your person in that role is applying to that role and creating greater likelihood of success faster and more efficiently when you use a systematic approach.
Awesome. Well, and I would encourage our audience to reach out to Titus, reach out to Ben.Murphy. He's on LinkedIn. I've had the privilege of actually being inside this company. We've done business with their company. We use some of their tools. They use our stuff. I would really encourage people to reach out and look at M4P and look at using their predictive index hiring services. And some of the things they do is so innovative. Every client that we've referred to them always ends up calling us and thanking us. So again, thanks for your time today, Ben. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Tim. Enjoyed being on.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to another episode of Coaching Conversations by Tim Hagan and Progress Coaching. Now, our company is always coming out with new and innovative solutions to help leaders coach their employees. And recently, we just created a new service called Coach to You, where leaders can pick and choose topics and assign 7 to 21-day programs for employees to learn and, more importantly, apply actions and then reflect and share what they're going to do going forward as a result of the learning. It's called Coach to You. We're literally bringing coaching to your employees. If you're intrigued, we'll have a link in each one of our episodes where you can get more information. And again, thank you so much for listening to another episode.